Hi everyone, welcome to part 3 for the Bushcraft kit series. I should say Bushcraft survival kit series. This is Get Home Bag part 3. Basically this is going to be kind of a summary. I'm just going to go over a couple things here. So obviously a Get Home Bag is a GHB. So what's the purpose of a Get Home Bag? Well, one of the purposes for a Get Home Bag is for you to get home, meaning as in a natural disaster. What's a natural disaster? Obviously pretty much everyone knows, everyone in their own region can kind of figure that one out, you know, tornadoes to hurricanes, any other kind of, you know, severe thunderstorm with power knocked out and you have to get home to your family and to your preps. Then you got man-made. Man-made is obviously, as people know, you know, it's a crazy time that we live in, and I usually don't try to use the words that are out there, but there's, you know, a lot of crazy nuts out there, extremists or what have you. Now, what's the difference between a get home bag and a 72-hour bag or a bug out bag? Well, as explained with the get home bag, you know, that's to get you home in the previous 2 videos. But a 72-hour bag is more of a bag that you're going to have to live for a long term. So you got long term from 72 hours plus, meaning that, you know, it could be longer than 72 hours, it could be less than 72 hours. So obviously your kit with a 72-hour bag is going to have to cover with food, water, a better shelter, fire, etc. Now it's pretty similar to a get home bag. A get home bag, you're going to cover, minus the food, you're going to want to cover the water. In some cases it could be for water purification. Let's just go with H2O purification, or, you know, you can bring your own H2O. Food, obviously food's not an issue. Shelter, now there's a difference between the shelter of a 72-hour bag and a get home bag. The 72-hour shelter for a get home, or I should say a shelter for a get home bag, would be more something that would only get you by at the most for the night, you know, or to protect you from the element. So usually it would be either be a real cheap tarp of some sort, kind of like how I showed with my last video. I had a tarp glued, or I should say a space blanket glued to a real cheap nylon tarp, which I'm going to make an upcoming video how to do that. So shelter would be a light shelter just to get you by for 24 hours. I'm running out of room here, sorry about that. Hopefully you can kind of make this out. And fire. Now the difference between the fire kit is, if you remember, this is for 72 hours. A fire kit for here, basically you just need a couple things to start a fire, to either dry out, warm up if it's an extreme cold out, or if you got wet, you know, from either falling into water or getting rained on. So the fire kit, small. So basically everything here, you know, between the get home bag and a 72-hour bag is that this kit would be smaller minus some things. Now, I should add, probably with food here, you would probably want to go with a protein bar of some sort. So, let me just kind of make some room here. Excuse me real quick. Hopefully this will let's kind of make some room here. So we got natural disasters, all that good stuff there. Kind of smudgy, so sorry about that too. So basically, like with a 72-hour, or a get home bag, is let's just say this is your home right here. Okay, Your work is up here. You go shopping over here. Let's see here. You got your friends over here. So let's just say work to your house is 15 miles. Shopping, let's just say 25 miles, depending, you know, obviously everyone would be different with their distances. This is just kind of a little demonstration. Friends, 2 miles. Now, since you know your area, because you live here, and majority of people know their 25-mile radius of their home. So you should probably know where your water is. Let's just call that a lake there, and you got your stream there. Now, if you know where that is, you should be able to find water. Now, you have to keep in mind, though, that you could have a farm here, which, you know, the manure from the farm can kind of go into the stream, so I wouldn't even drink out of that, you know. Or you could have a big old subdivision over here, and then their toxins from them spraying their yard and stuff can be going into the stream. So that's, you want to kind of check out your area right there, you know, in your own area, to make sure that your water is drinkable, you know, with a water purifier or with water tablets. Now, usually in most areas you're going to have wilderness areas. So the green obviously is the wilderness areas. Let's just kind of scatter that around here, which will help you with your shelter, you know. So let's say if you're shopping, you know, and something happens either while you're shopping or on the way home, you know where you can kind of hold up for a little bit to either A, get your bearings together, or B, to stay out of the weather, you know, whatever the situation is. So you kind of want to know your area where you're able to kind of set up and where you can get water. And this way it makes everything a lot easier for you to map out. I would recommend having a map in your get home bag with areas where you know that you're able to kind of set up to get home. So obviously, you know, within 25 miles, you know, walking wise, you know, depending on if the roads are torn up to what have you, you know, that should not take more than 24 hours. Now, obviously with the get home bag, you're not going to be living out of it. You're not expected to live out of it. The get home bag is just to get you home. So if you're at 25 miles, you know, and let's just say it takes you an hour, 1 mile and an hour to get home, depending on what the circumstances are. Majority of the people aren't going to sit there and try to sleep for 6 hours if they're under a 24-hour window to get home. You know, same with 15 miles and 2 miles. But it's very important to know your whole entire surrounding area, even if it's 15 miles. I mean, your shopping area could be 10 miles. Your farm or your work can be right next door. You know, but you want to know your area. Also, I mean, as I put in with part 2 with my kit I can cover all of this easily. Now obviously there's things that you have to know, you know, like with a kit, kind of like similar with mine, is that you need to know how to tie knots. So what do you need to know? Need to know how to tie a knot. Usually a hitcher's knot is a good one. A bow knot. And both of these actually that would be a trucker hitch. So sorry about that. Trucker hitch. both of these knots you can do at home with some paracord while you're watching TV or watching the YouTube videos, and memorize how to make them. And you're going to see a lot with my upcoming videos and even my older videos that I pretty much use these two, and I may use a Prusik knot, which is another good one. That's pretty much all I'll use, and this is for shelter. All this right here is for shelter. Now, water-wise, you probably want to know how to either use your purifier and tabs, depending on which one you're going to be running with. Now, what I do with the tabs, because either with the iodine or the tabs, it depends on, usually it's like 1 quart, 1 tab to 1 quart, but it depends on what kind you get. They got the chlorine, you know, there's all different kinds out there. What I'll do is I'll keep a notebook and I'll write how long you keep the tabs in the water. Like the chlorine ones I have now is like 20 minutes. I've seen some that would be 45 minutes or an hour. So write that down. Keep it in a little notebook in your pack. You know, if, you know, for your shelters, you can always just write down, you know, the shelters that you would set up, you know, either a spider shelter, a lean-to, what have you, and just write it down if you're not too familiar with it. But like I always say, go out there and get some dirt time in. Obviously with the food, you know, I have the 2 spams. You can get a protein bar or what have you. Just enough just to get you by. Just something small just to give you the extra calories. For fire kits, what I notice what a lot of people do with fire kits, which to me, a fire kit is probably the most important aspects, because that can purify your water by boiling. That can also get you warm, dry out your clothes. In this case, you probably wouldn't be cooking food, but for a fire kit, I would always go with a Bic lighter. So, fire kit, a Bic lighter. I would go with the push down ones, not the ones with the wheels, because mostly in a cold environment it's harder to turn that wheel, but it's easier to push down. So we'll just call it a push down lighter. Matches. Just go to the hardware store and get those any strike matches. And then a rod. That'll cover your 24 hours. Now, I usually also, to help with the fire, I'll go with fire straws, lint, and then I'll use a natural. If you don't know how to, you know, process your own fire starting natural tinder or what have you, it's a good time to start learning. And all this stuff you can do in your yard. So this is pretty much the summary of oops, excuse me. This is pretty much the summary of both of the videos. I just want to just kind of give more of a demonstration of what the purpose behind the bag is. And remember, it's your responsibility to go out there and practice it, because the worst scenario you want to do is all of a sudden go out there and you don't know how to put up a shelter, and then you're going to have to wing it. So, and also with the earlier demonstration, make sure you kind of know your areas, your most traveled areas, so this way you kind of can map out where depending on what the reason why you want to get home bag, why you want to go, or where to go, you know, depending on your situation or crisis, if you want to call it. So hopefully these 3 videos made some sense and give you some ideas Any questions, you can post it down below. And thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share. Any suggestions, that's great too. Obviously, I'm kind of new with the whole, filming with YouTube. So as I come out with more videos, they'll get better. They'll make more sense. So once again, thank you very much.